Hey y'all. I've realized in my videos that I am not very good at giving an actual introduction and introducing myself every time because I know there are new people, so I'm gonna try to be really better about that. But my name's Emily and this is my channel, Em Reads, and I'm really glad you're here. And this is where we talk about books and reading, books I'm reading, books I want to read. I want to hear about books you're reading and everything attached to that. But here I'm filming tonight and I'm kind of trying something new a little bit. My birthday was on Friday and my husband actually really thoughtfully got me a ring light. So this is the first time I've ever used it, and I'm gonna kind of play around with it a little bit, see how it works. But I didn't ask him for one, but he knew I had started to do this a little bit and just thought it would be nice and kind of free up additional times that I could film these videos. So I was really excited to try it, and so we'll see how it goes. Let me know any tips or tricks you have for using something like that, if you do use something like that when you film videos or not. I've just been, all I use to film videos are my phone, and I do some incredibly minimal editing in iMovie. So, and I just use natural light generally from a window, but this kind of frees me up a little bit to film earlier in the morning or later at night as time might allow more. So we'll see how it goes, I guess. But today, let's get to the point. I am filming a tag video today. It is the Worth Every Page Big Books tag that was started by Shelly Swearingen, and she was sweet enough to tag me. But the whole point is just to recommend three mammoth books at least three mammoth books that you think are worth every single page that is in them. And generally in booktube terms, a mammoth means a book that is at least 800 pages. Now, people are pretty forgiving about that page number if something comes in a little under or something like that, but generally the 800 page mark is what's accepted. But I loved this idea. I thought it was a great tag. Big books are so wonderful, and I love big books. And sometimes I think in this current environment, atmosphere, whatever you want to call it, of book talk and even booktube, so much emphasis can be placed on number of books read in a year, and I think that can sometimes cause some people to choose shorter books instead of devoting the time to a longer book. And there is just so much, I think, to be gained by longer books, that it just gives you an opportunity to get truly immersed in the story. It allows for some more depth of character and bigger character arcs. And I think it's probably pretty obvious that a lot of fantasy makes use of really long books in order to assist in their world building. But yeah, so here we are. I'm going to recommend three mammoths, and I'm going to kind of expand on Shelly's tag a little bit in the sense that I'm also going to tack on three mammoths that I have not yet read, but I need to read. And I'd love to hear those kind of recommendations from y'all too. But again, I really appreciate Shelly for tagging me in this, and I'll tag some people below, but if I don't tag you, please do this tag anyway. I want to see everyone's recommendations for mammoths. And I'll link Shelly's original tag video in the description below too, but let's get started. Okay, first is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. And my edition of Anna Karenina comes in at 817 pages. So just over a mammoth. I'm sure some editions of this may come in a little lower, a little higher. This is the translation by Pavir and Volkonsky. I know they are a married couple, and they've done a lot of the more recent translations of the major Russian works. This is the only one of theirs I've read, and this is the only translation of Anna Karenina I have read. I did really enjoy it, but I'm also open to new translations. So if you have read a translation of this that you really love, let me know, because I'd love to potentially check it out when I do a reread. But Anna Karenina, if you don't know, is the story of Anna and her descent and spiral due to her adulterous affair with Captain Vronsky. And it's also the story of Levin and his relationship with Kitty and his coming to faith, his conversion. And this book, I feel like, rocked me to my core in a lot of ways, in the way Tolstoy articulates and puts words to human emotion, human thought, human decision-making, judgment of others, made me feel so seen. I have never experienced anything quite like it. I was stunned, shocked, loved every second of it. This is much more accessible than you think it is. If you're afraid to pick it up because it's a book in translation, because it's a Russian novel, because it's really long, do not hesitate. It is much more accessible and readable than you might think it is. This was almost like an instant top 5 read for me as soon as I was done. Even before I was done, this catapulted itself into my heart books, I love Anna so much. My heart breaks for her, and I love her. But for the grace of God, I would be Anna. And I think that's what we all need to know. And God, I can't say enough about this book. It is wonderful. Everyone should read it. Anna Karenina, ladies and gentlemen. Anna Karenina. Next, we have another kind of heart novel for me, I guess, and that is The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. And yes, this is a mammoth because it is one novel. I know it gets split up into 3 books, often for publication, but it was written as one novel, and that's how we're going to talk about it today. And absent the appendices, which we can talk about at another time, hot topic when it comes to The Lord of the Rings, but absent the appendices, this is 1,031 pages. At least my edition is. This is a 50th anniversary edition that I picked up at Barnes & Noble a while ago because I have some very old, worn, ratty copies from when I first read this in middle school, and I just kind of wanted a new working version of it, I guess. But The Lord of the Rings, I guess if you're unfamiliar, is the story of Frodo Baggins and many other characters, but Frodo Baggins' journey to destroy the One Ring of Power in order to defeat Sauron and save Middle-earth. And it is a just heartwarming and heart-wrenching story of friendship, fellowship, loyalty, good versus evil, leadership, what good leadership is and looks like, redemption. It's just beautiful, and the films done by Peter Jackson are wonderful. They are different than this in some ways, and in some ways that are very important, but they are wonderful in their own right, and I love them. But you should still read this. This is still worth reading, and this is something that I dip in and out of a lot, to go back and reread certain passages that I love, passages that make me cry, and just ones that fill me with hope and bolster me and can bolster my faith even. It's something that I gain more from every time I read it. There's such depth here in every single facet of the story, which is what's so amazing. It's a lot of stories, a lot of novels have a lot of depth to them that you can continue to learn more things from every time you go back to it. But I have never encountered something that is so rich in that way, in every single facet of the story, every character, every bit of it. And I can't say enough about this. Even if you are not a fantasy reader, I don't care. Read this. And I feel like I've encountered several people lately on BookTube who have not read this, before. And let's do a read along. Let's do it. I am ready. I'm willing. I'm able. I would love to reread this with a group of y'all. So I'm putting it out there on the table. Let's do it. This is worth it and worth the time. But The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. Okay. This next one, I'm cheating a little bit, so I'm sorry. This individual book is not technically a mammoth. It is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. And this first novel is, at least this copy I have, is 627 pages. So that is not something I would qualify as a mammoth in BookTube terms. Certainly not in the way that Anna Karenina and The Lord of the Rings is. But this is a 9-book series now? 10-book series? I can't remember. These are the first 5 right here. I have others, but this is all I felt like holding right now. These are the first 5. And besides this one, this first one, they're all mammoths. All of them. Like the whole rest of the series is like between 700 pages and like 950 pages. So because the rest of the series is like that, I'm going to talk about this one like it's a mammoth, and you're just going to have to forgive me for it. But anyway, Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. This is kind of like these are all fun picks, but this is kind of my fun pick. I felt like I picked Anna Karenina as a classic. Lord of the Rings is kind of like my fantasy pick because I am a fantasy reader. And this is kind of my historical fiction / more contemporary pick, I guess, is kind of how we'll categorize it. Because this book does kind of defy categorization. It is historical fiction. There is a romance. There are elements of fantasy / the supernatural because of the time travel. There is mystery and political intrigue. There are fights and battle scenes. And I'm kind of talking about the whole series, sort of, but primarily this first book. And so this book is difficult to categorize. It checks a lot of different things, but I think there's something for nearly everyone in this book and in this series. The first book is very heavy on the romance. It's certainly present in the other novels, but it is I would say the primary focus of this one. But it is the story of Claire, and it starts off with her and her husband Frank, who are taking a brief kind of second honeymoon right after World War II has finished. They are in Scotland. Frank is a historian. Claire was a nurse in World War II, a combat nurse, and she accidentally, through some standing stones, gets transported back in time to the 1700s, and there meets a band of Scottish Highlanders and gets embroiled in their schemes. And this currently has a TV adaptation with stars. I think they've done 7 seasons. The 8th is airing soon. They're even making a prequel series. I have not watched all of the series yet, but I have watched much of it, and I do really enjoy it. I think they've done a really good job. I think the production is great. The casting was wonderful. The TV adaptation is wonderful, but like most things, it doesn't compare to the books. And I did read the books first, so I do have a preference for the book. But because I think of the TV adaptation, and because this has largely been read by women, I think this book just gets kind of thrown off as a romance novel by a lot of people. And I just really want to tell you that it's more than that, because it is much more than that. There is much more history and story and plot and intrigue and depth of theme than just a romance story. And while the romance story is absolutely central, when you look at this series as a whole, there is so much more. And Diana Gabaldon is an incredibly intelligent woman, and that clearly comes out in her writing to me. These are far more literary than I think they're given credit for. Alana Estelle recently she's reading through this series as well. She just did a review of the 4th book in the series called Drums of Autumn, and she made that comment that these are far more literary than I think they're given credit for. And I'll link her review in the description below as well. But I just really want to recommend these books. They're great. I just think they get kind of put in a box sometimes that I don't think they need to be put in. And if you've only read this book in the series, keep going. I have not finished the series. That is one of my goals. I have read through, I think, the first 5 books, but I did that a really long time ago, and I need to pick up the rest, but I kind of want to reread them. So I think I'm going to start that soon and do a reread and maybe post individual reviews of each one as I go, just to have the backlog of them on here on this channel. But okay, anyway, I've kind of gone off on a tangent, but the whole Outlander series, I really recommend. While this first book is not a mammoth, so I'm kind of cheating, I think it's okay because the whole rest of the series definitely qualifies. So I really recommend that y'all pick this up too. Okay, and now for my kind of little expansion of this tag, I want to talk about 3 mammoths that I have not read that I really want to read. And I'm going to kind of structure it the same way that I did the 3 that I recommended, by having a classic, a fantasy-esque pick, and then a historical fiction type of pick. So yeah, here are 3 that I still need to read. And the first is Middlemarch by George Eliot. I actually did start to read this book last year, and I made it through a little over 300 pages. I think this book in total is 785 pages. So just shy of 800, but I think it, for booktube purposes, it still qualifies. But this is George Eliot's novel, just of the fictional English town of Middlemarch and its residents. It's a story of provincial life with its ensemble of characters that are all interconnected in their lives and loves, careers, political relationships. And I made it through like not quite half of the book, and then life just kind of got in the way. This does move a little more slowly, and I think I knew that before I started, but at the time in which I tried to read it, I wasn't necessarily in a place where that was working for me. But I do really want to pick this back up and finish it, because I was just kind of getting to a point where I was getting more invested in the characters, and I know so many people, like, this is their favorite novel. So if you've read Middlemarch and you loved it, give me some encouragement down below to pick it back up and finish it, because I do really want to. I need to know what happens with all these people. But Middlemarch by George Eliot. And my fantasy-esque pick is Bullfinchs Mythology by Thomas Bulfinch. And this is not something that I hear people talk about, have heard people talk about. I think I've seen it mentioned once or twice, but I came across this when I was searching for more Arthurian retellings or books related to the Arthurian myth, and this came up. And this is essentially a book written of a lot of different mythological tales. It covers the Greek and Roman myths, the Arthurian myths, and then it has a whole section on other medieval romances. And I think the intent of this collection for Bulfinch was to have something that was accessible for the average reader, not someone in academia, not a theologian, just your average reader to be able to read these stories of the Greek and Roman gods, of Arthur, of Charlemagne, to be able to consume and have a baseline level of knowledge of those stories, so that they would be able to understand all the references that are made to those stories in other literature and other places in, right, like, not the word pop culture, but just in culture, in music and other stories. And I think that's really wonderful. I think that's great. And So this is something I really kind of want to go through. I am primarily interested in it because of the section on the Arthurian myths. So I don't know that this is something that I'm going to necessarily read cover to cover, so to speak. I'll probably dip in and out of it, read a piece here, a piece there, as I go through it. But I love the idea of it, and after I had seen it kind of on a list regarding the Arthurian myths, I found it at my used bookstore for just a few dollars, so it felt like a great time to pick it up. But oh, I didn't even give you a page count of this, even though I said it was a mammoth. It is 854 pages. So definitely qualifies. This is a Barnes & Noble Classic edition, but I know there are a million different editions of this out there. This is just one that I happened to find at my used bookstore. But if you've ever read any of this or would recommend it, would not recommend it, let me know. Let me know your thoughts on it, because I don't have any preconceived notions of what this will be like, other than I kind of like the concept of it. I guess it's to be seen how well it's executed, but yeah, let me know what you think. Okay, and my last mammoth that I need to get to, that's kind of my historical fiction pick, is The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. This is one of those books that I feel like if you are a reader of historical fiction, everyone kind of assumes that you've read this book. You know, it's just kind of one of those baseline benchmark level books that if you say that you read that genre, everyone thinks you've read this, and most people I run into recommend it. I know there was a miniseries, I believe, adaptation about 15 years ago or so. I have not seen that, but this is the story, I think, essentially of the building of a cathedral, and I think the story spans about 50 or so years in the 1100s, and it deals with political intrigue, architecture, religious themes, and religious conflict, and all of that sounds like it could be kind of boring, but everyone says that it is absolutely not boring at all. So this is definitely on my list. I just don't know where it's gonna fall or where I'm gonna get to it, but I really want to. I really want to know what the hype is about, why this is kind of considered a must read when it comes to historical fiction for a lot of people. And I mean, I just remember when I picked this up at a library sale, a library book sale, and the lady checking me out after I picked it up just immediately was telling me how much I was going to love it, how wonderful it was. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it too. But this is the other mammoth. Oh, and again, I'm so sorry I didn't tell you the page numbers, how many pages it is. You're just taking my word for it that it's a mammoth, which maybe you shouldn't, since I fibbed about Outlander. This is (973 pages. See, I didn't fib on this one. This is truly a mammoth in every sense of the word. But this is my last one that I really need to read. So there are all my picks. I really want to hear y'all's too. I want to hear all your mammoth recommendations, ones you love, ones that are still on your list. And Shelly, again, thank you for making this tag. It's a great one. And I'll talk to all y'all soon. Bye.